another component of an inquiry unit is the front loading. Front loading is the most important thing you can do to ensure student success. Research suggests that well over half of student comprehension problems can be eliminated if teachers activate background knowledge students already possess prior to reading. Inquiry process requires explicit and implicit assistance of BDA, which is before, during, and after reading and learning activities, and front loading. Some of you may know it as pre-reading activities, pre-writing, or pre-learning activities, anticipatory sets, etc. We refer to that as front loading. So after you've presented to your essential question, you've posed the culminating or presented the culminating activity to students. This is the end that we have in mind. This is why we're doing all the activities that we're doing, so that you can do this particular culminating activity. So then, how else do you hook them? How can you assess that prior knowledge? And you need to assess that prior knowledge that they have and the background knowledge that they are already coming to the table with, so that you can figure out, okay, what do I need to teach in order to get you all to that same level, or try to get you there, so that we can move on into the unit. And front-loading activities are also help to really hook and engage students at the beginning of a unit. Front-loading is what you do before the reading and learning activities to create interest, foreground purpose, activate background knowledge, as I already mentioned, and to build the background knowledge. Provide some kind of response template to assist in constructing and place-holding emergent understandings over the course of the unit, or note catcher. As you guys see, we try to provide some sort of a note catcher in most of the activities that we do or present. So when you're assessing this, students should have some sort of a note catcher as well. And it serves as a formative type of assessment for you, which is why the Opinionnaire is an example of one that we did this morning. This is a different version of an Opinionnaire. So this is one that I gave out to my students, asked them these questions. You know, like families should not be allowed to have more than 2 children. And instead of having the 4 corners, I asked them, do you agree or do you not? What's your opinion and what's your rationale behind that? Can any of you guys guess what reading I might have been been using in this unit? Yes. The Giver, yes. Some people are not familiar. I was shocked that I asked students, like, you asked students that? What did they say? But, and it did create a good debate. So they were engaged. And we referred back to the questions on the Opinionnaire. It was a lot longer. This is just a sample throughout our unit. And as they were reading new material, for example, when they got to this part in The Giver, they said, oh, that's why that question was there, and some of them changed their answer because of that. Well, now I have certain evidence that I didn't take into consideration, and maybe I want to modify my opinion. Okay, so that's an Opinionnaire. Here is how Rachel and Anna use an Opinionnaire. They were doing a unit on satire, I believe, and what Rachel did to come up with her controversial statements, which I didn't think of before, she would just Google like quotes about a certain theme or a certain topic, and she used those quotes because sometimes, she just said, they just transfer so easily to these huge statements, and that's what she uses, which I thought was a good idea. I didn't do that. I didn't know that before.
I mean, for Opinionnaires, if you Google Opinionnaire or anticipation guide, in the literature world anyway, people have already made it. And you can choose which ones you want to focus on. You can, so I'm sure they're out there for different units as well.
So some people call them Opinionnaires, some people call them anticipatory sets. Anticipation guide. Okay. A Frayer model is another one that I use often. I use that with our preschool students, and I use this with my college freshman students. So it's very simple. If you're interested in any of this, we have electronic templates. Just email us, and we will send you one with directions and everything that's a lot nicer than this. But it's very basic. There's 4 quadrants. You place a topic in the middle. What's the definition? What are characteristics? What are examples? What are non-examples? So I present this to students at the beginning of a unit. What do you know about this topic? If we're discussing survival, going back to the question that we had earlier. What is your question? Or what was one of the questions we were brainstorming here? Do you mind sharing?
How have entitlement programs influenced American society?
Okay, so maybe the topic might be entitlement programs. Do they have a definition for that? Do they have characteristics? Do they know examples? Do they know non-examples? Okay, and if they don't have a definition, they don't have any examples, then that lets you know, okay, we clearly need to, explore and research what these entitlement programs are, because they don't have that background knowledge. Okay, so it serves, they're engaged, you're checking, and one student might have a lot more than another student. So then depending how you group them and the discussions that you have in class, so I have them do one individually, and then I have a large one for the class. And so we're generating this authentic collaboration of knowledge is what we're doing. We're creating knowledge as a class, and they are helping each other build that background knowledge. And then we can continue. They're engaged. Now what? Why are we even asking this question? What are we going to learn about? Okay. Here's a more specific example, very basic, for a square. Okay. Can you define it? Can a first grader, I don't know if that's applicable to that grade, or kindergarten, can you define a square? Can you give me some examples? Can you give me some non-examples? Our preschool students, our unit is, our essential question is, it's on. What is it? Oh, so it escaped me. What does it mean? Yeah, what does it mean to be kind? What does it mean to be kind? So these are 4-year-old kids. What does it mean to be kind? And so as we're reading a lot of these stories, they are looking for examples and non-examples, because they didn't know what any examples were or non-examples. And they're coming up with characteristics. We showed them all these pictures, and they were able to put the pictures, because they can't write, into the characteristics. So we showed them a picture of a bunny. I said, what is that a characteristic of kindness? Yes. I said, explain that to me. And they said, well, because bunnies are warm and soft, and when someone's kind, it feels warm and soft. They made a claim, and they supported it, and we put that bunny under characteristics. And more importantly, they're learning, this vocabulary. For 4-year-olds to say characteristics, for 4-year-olds to say that's an example, that's not a non-example. Sometimes it backfires. My daughter is continually telling me, that's a non-example of being kind, Mama. Like, right. Just wanted to keep you on your toes.